Khumbu, home of the Sherpa people, home of the world's highest peak, Mount Everest. The Sherpas call her Chomolungma, Mother Goddess. She dominates the lives of the people who live in her shadow. Dawa Stephen Sherpa, son of Angchiring Sherpa, climbed the 8,201-meter Choyu peak in the autumn of 2006 from the northern side.
Hi, this is Dawa on top of Choyu. I am probably about 8,100 meters and have another 100 meters to climb, but I just wanted to share the view with you. It's a lovely sunrise. Look at this.
In the spring of 2007, he reached the summit of Mount Everest as a member of the Dream Everest Expedition.
So, this is me on the top of Everest.
Dawa Stephen's home is in Khumjung village. He visits his home, his roots and his family as often as he can. After reaching the summit of Mount Everest, Dawa Stephen's visits to the Khumbu took on a new meaning, a new dimension, a different perspective.
I was on the summit of Everest, and it seemed the world was at my feet. After returning to base camp, I was ready to go home, but certain circumstances dictated otherwise. I had to cross once again the notorious Khumbu icefall. The why is another story. As I made my way up, I met my Sherpa team rushing down with their loads, chanting prayers for safety and protection. The solid ice that had been there during the expedition had now melted into slush. The ice below our feet was creaking and crumbling. The Sherpas were literally running for their lives. As they passed me, one of them turned and said, "Dawa, if you want to die today, continue climbing, but please return with us and come down." I listened to their advice and turned back. That same day, from that exact point, the entire ice field collapsed. This was very unusual for late May. Many Sherpas were still on the mountain clearing up the higher camps. I wanted to know why this had happened. After returning to Kathmandu, I began my quest. Most of my findings pointed towards the effects of global warming. Of course, I knew about global warming, climate change, and glacial lake outburst floodings or BLOFs. Before Everest, these words were just words for me. I used to think that it would never affect me, or my home Khumjung, or my people, the Sherpas. Climate change was no longer an abstract concept for me. It threatened my life, my home, and my people. I had fulfilled my dream. I'd stood on top of the world. Little did I realize at the time that it was actually the beginning of a new journey with a new meaning. We see the mountains as massive, solid, unchanging, strong and lofty, but few of us realize that they are some of the most fragile environments in the world. The ice on the mountains and the glaciers at their bases are melting at unprecedented rates, leaving behind huge glacial lakes.
The glaciers in the Himalayas are very strongly receding, and we have then also looked especially at the outbreak of Chorola and looking at the Imja Lake, and we see that the Imja Glacier is one of the fastest receding glaciers in the world.
My search for an answer to this threat led me to Isimode. Following many discussions with experts at Isimode, I realized my ancestral home was directly threatened by the waters in Imja Lake, a lake held back by mere ice and rock weakly fused together. But we know that the ice is melting, so it's not a question of if this barrier breaks, rather when it breaks, to thunder down in a vertical tsunami. After discussions with Isimode, I felt the need for a combined effort to be made to draw the world's attention to these threats. As a mountaineer, I knew that Everest was a platform that stood above all. I knew that mountain lovers from around the world would support my efforts and my intentions in every way they could. This realization was the beginning of a campaign, the Everest Expedition 2008, in partnership with Isimode.
Now when we heard that Dawa Sherpa is making an expedition and calling for the attention to the climate change and these aspects, we thought this is really a great opportunity to increase the awareness of the problem. And we are very happy that we can associate ourselves with him.
We plan to raise awareness about the risks to the lives of the Sherpa people in the Khumbu, raise funds for a Gloff early warning system in the Khumbu Valley, and carry out a serious study into understanding the problem and finding possible and practical solutions.
In preparation for Eco Everest, Dawa Stephen wrote to world-renowned mountaineers seeking their advice based on their extensive personal experiences of the conditions and limitations while climbing. He requested suggestions for a climbing code of conduct for an expedition to Mount Everest, a code of conduct that would be eco-friendly and yet practical. He wants to field test these suggestions on Eco Everest. In his search for support, he found a kindred spirit in Ken Nukochi.
I'd long admired and envied Ken-san's campaign and determination. He's my role model. Inspired to take up mountain climbing after reading a Japanese book called Pinning My Dreams on Mountains, he reached the summit of Everest in 1999 when he was only 25. In the year 2000, he launched a campaign to clean up Mount Everest and Mount Fuji, and has since been taking positive action on environmental problems. He is at present promoting additional approaches to mitigate global warming. Ken-san has experience that I can learn from. As a fellow climber, he not only understands the problems and the risks, but also knows the limitations.